All right, Kiss Army, welcome to the KissFAQ Podcast. Thank you for giving us your time today and letting us into your head. I hope we don't do any damage. We hope that you enjoy. Welcome to episode 334 of the KissFAQ Podcast. I'm your host, Julian Gill. Today I'm joined by the voice of treason, 69th Blizzard. You said it, not me. You said it, not me.
Yeah, I know.
There we go. Lonnie,
What's up?
Lewis Kiss, and Andrew Scambatti, independent filmmaker extraordinaire. A live Catman on the board. Let's do a little bit of news. Andrew, you're about to take a sip, so I pick on you. I pick on Ken when he's on mute. I pick on you when you take a sip.
That's okay. So, not a whole lot of Kiss news going on. Obviously, a couple weeks ago, they announced the Dubai New Year's Eve 2020 concert stream. And I guess Gene was pimping it today on 95.5 KLOS and just reiterating that it's going to be big and grand and all that stuff. No mention of the set or the stage set or the set list. But he did mention that, I guess, if everything goes well, that there will be 150 more Kiss shows. No idea where or no idea what. And some Eagle Eye fans have noticed that if you try and buy 2021 ticket packages, the platinum tickets have dropped in price. They're now $4,000 versus like the $7,000 they were last year. So, we'll see how this year finishes up, and then we'll see if the band actually comes back on tour. They say they want to do 150 more shows.
Hey,
so
I'll go to some
that's
more.
all the Kiss news, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, and Paul Stanley's sale of Smash guitars ended, and it looked like he had a lot of orders. So he got a good workout smashing those in preparation for sending out to purchasers. I did look through. I saw about 4 shows I went to, and I'm like, no, must resist, and I did resist. So very successful. One last piece of news is there is a very, very special Christmas time Odyssey special. Kiss's first catalog consultant, Robert V. Conti, did an interview about The Elder and Crazy Nights and his work with the catalog and in the vaults that I did replace a interview in the original printings of Odyssey with, and that of course was the other filmmaker whose film never happened. So I just swapped it out for a new interview that did have a little bit more context. So Robert's offering a special package deal that includes a signed postcard from me using Nils's fantastic draft cover art, and that's a new printing of that. He will also sign his interview in the book, and of course it's the new printing of it with that new interview. So there is a link on the FAQ message board, and here's a quick commercial. Did you know that Odyssey is available now as an expanded edition? It includes a 25-page interview with the first ever Kiss catalog consultant, Robert V. Conti. With this special offer, you'll receive an all-new copy of Odyssey, the definitive examination of Kiss's cult classic concept album, Music from the Elder, written by Tim McFate and Julian Gill, a postcard-sized image of the draft cover art, signed by co-author Julian Gill on the back, and an exclusive tip-in with personalized notes signed and numbered by Robert V. Conti. Copies ordered through December the 15th will ship immediately with free media mail in the contiguous United States in time for the holiday season. This book contains just about everything you could ever possibly want to know about Kiss's sublime Music from the Elder. All right, so that's Odyssey. Let's get it
quick, man.
Yeah, I know. Wasn't that fantastic? The magic of editing. I mean, you know all about that.
I do.
And that actually is today's topic. It is soon to be the 25th anniversary of Alive Worldwide. And coming on what day? What channel?
December 11th. Well, it's funny that you say it's almost 25 years because while I was creating this thing, I didn't even realize that it had been that long. It's just always been my favorite time period of the band. But as we round the clocks again and, the world goes around the sun one more time, it's been 25 years since the reunion tour, so what better way to celebrate than create a in-concert package that we never got on the reunion tour called Alive 96. And you could see this December 11th on YouTube and Vimeo. So that's why we're
So,
here today.
remind me, when did One Last Time in New York come out?
One Last Time in New York, that was released May 15th of this year.
So during the COVID era, you put together 2 fan films.
Pretty much, us. Yeah.
So you single-handedly are trying to entertain the Kiss Army.
Well, yeah. I mean, yes and no. The thing is, One Last Time, even though it picked up much of its steam during the COVID era, One Last Time was in the works dating back to 2018. Some of the original drafts of the idea was from 2018. A lot of the footage was shot during 2019, and it was in pieces done late 2019, but it really ramped up early 2020.
Well, we've all had a chance to check out an advanced screening of this movie, or fan film, let's be correct, absolutely, in our terminology. Lonnie, why don't you get us started with some questions for Catboy?
Andrew, I've wanted this for a long time. It's one of my favorite eras. I know it's your favorite era, is reunion tour. Just because of our close proximity in age, where both of us were pretty young in the late 90s and very impressionable, and it just has that lasting effect. So why now? Why? I know it's the 25th anniversary of it. I know it's the easy answer, but it's something we've been wanting. It's something that I've wanted for a long time. It's something I wish that would have came out. As much as I like the Second Coming, that's what I really wanted in late 1998 was this. So why now? What was your inspiration to do this?
Well, there were 2 things that were my inspiration doing this. The very first one, dating back almost 3 years, was actually Ken. When I first did the very first release of The Greatest Show on Earth, I didn't really tell anybody that I had done it. I mean, Ken obviously knew because I had sent him a copy of it, and he was watching it and really enjoyed it. At least he said he did. But he kind of posted on the FAQ message board, kind of tongue-in-cheek, and was like, hey, the guy that did The Greatest Show on Earth, he should combine all these reunion tour concerts and make a professional-looking package. Because if you watch a lot of those Pro Shot reunion tour shows, it leaves a lot to be desired. A lot of them are shot extremely close up. Some of them look bad. Some of them sound bad. Some of them are incomplete. Some of them are complete. It's just, you can't sit down and watch one concert and be satisfied. So I was like, well, he's right on that. And I just it was like percolating in the back of my head for a really long time. And a couple months ago, a fan put out a complete version of the Tiger Stadium show, where it was just a poor quality update. It was a poor quality release of the Kissology DVD, and like the songs that Kissology was missing, he was putting in footage from the fan shot, show from Tiger Stadium. So I was kind of watching this. I was like, this is not good. Nothing about this is good. I was like, I could do better than this, and I was just going off on this thing for a couple hours, like all the things that I didn't like with it. It's in the wrong aspect ratio. It's all stretched out, and then I was like, wait, I can do something better than this. And it kind of got my ideas going again, going, well, I'll use those 3 shows from Kissology as a starting point. Detroit Tiger Stadium, Irvine Meadows, California, Madison Square Garden, July 96. I'll use those 3 shows as the starting point, and I'll kind of put something together that should have been the VHS live concert release from late 96, early 97. And it went from there. It came together rather quickly and rather fast. I don't want to say that I rushed in doing it, but it was one of those things that I was like, yeah, this can be done. This should be something that we can watch and enjoy this great time period of the band.
So Ken, why did you think that this should be done? Why did you do this? Why did you make Andrew go to all this effort?
I was playing a joke on him, actually. No. No, I mean, it's true that I've always wanted, and I know, like Lonnie said, he has too, and I'm sure many others. We expected Kiss to put something out, a full show or something out, since they were taping everything anyway on their end. We were expecting something to be out, and what was on, the what was the name of the video they put out?
The Second Coming.
Second
Coming. Yeah, it just, that was missing. That was the one element missing from that, I think. So we only got some piecemeal stuff. So yeah, I always wanted a nice full show of a reunion concert. Now, as for a question for Andrew, I was thinking about it when I was watching it. I was like, well, I wonder if Andrew did anything with the Paul Stanley's raps. If he removed them or edited them down, or because sometimes Paul tended
very
to
long-winded.
go on, and I thought what I saw on this was perfect, sufficient. It wasn't overdone or anything like that. So I thought, okay, well, maybe he did do something. But I wasn't sure.
So the way I approach this is I approach this the same way that I assumed that Kiss approached their live albums, where it was much more about creating a feeling of being there instead of getting an actual carbon copy of what it was being there. So yes, the raps were 100% trimmed down just to give you a taste. I didn't need him yodeling in between every song.
No.
I didn't need him talking about his love gun, for 4 minutes. It's just, I put in just enough where he was able to move the show along. Kind of like where if you watch the Houston show and you watch the Largo show, there's more Paul Stanley talking during those shows. But when you listen to a live 2, a lot of the fat was trimmed off, and that goes much farther in just saying that Paul Stanley's raps were trimmed. I trimmed Ace's guitar solo. I trimmed Gene's blood solo. I trimmed Peter's Ace's guitar solo, Gene's bass solo, Peter's drum solo, and then Paul's little solo in the beginning of Black Diamond, because they didn't, where you were clapping your hands while Paul was playing that intro to Black Diamond, that didn't need to be there. Some of it's there, but a lot of those things where Peter's, pointing to each side of the crowd, that didn't really need to be on the video because, okay, cool, I'm sitting at home 25 years later and I'm watching Peter Criss test his cymbals like he was at Sam Ash. I mean, listen, it was a great effect when you were there, and when he was pointing to different sides of the arena, that was awesome. But at the same time, it didn't really translate into a long-form video package. So I took some creative leaps, and I made it. It's called Alive 96, and in my mind I go, well, what would they have done if this was Alive 4? And that's what I did.
That was the impression I got too. Like certain aspects were taken out. Like a lot of the longer raps were taken out. Like the second part of Ace's solo with them shooting the rockets was taken out. Well, like Andrew said, that is a cool effect. If they were to release like an Alive 4, which they should have done for that tour, certain aspects of the show are taken out. Like, we all know, Paul's raps are always longer than what they are like on the Vegas one, for example. Julie and I both went to Vegas. Paul talk. A lot of those are just taken down because it doesn't translate well to be sitting in your car driving and have a 45-second Paul rap going on. Let's get to the next song. I'm driving down the highway here. So I can totally see. I thought about that as I was watching. Like, this is what an Alive 4 would have been like. Some of these aspects would have been taken out. Gene's bass solo would have been cut down a little bit to translate better on CD or VHS for 1996. So I totally saw as I was watching it why he did that. It was really cool.
Some of this stuff would drag on, especially as Gene is like vomiting on himself, and I'm like, okay, cool. I'm like, all right, I get where he's going, like when he's there live and he's feeding off the energy of the crowd, but it didn't translate in video. I watched some of these things I was putting together. I was like, all right, I got to get on with it. I got to let's get to the next thing, and especially that drum solo in Tiger Stadium was so long. And I'm not saying it was bad by any means, but there was experiencing that live at Tiger Stadium was probably incredible. The electricity of that night was incredible. That doesn't translate to video. Any solo doesn't really translate to video like that. So there's some things that had to be trimmed down.
So I think we really did miss out on a release at the time. They could have easily combined the Kiss Alive title with a play on Peter Frampton. Kiss Comes Alive Again would have been a fun title. One thing you touched on already is that this came together rapidly, but you also stress that it was still an effort. But you've done several of these films now, these fan films. Does the process become easier? And do you have a clearer vision of what you want from each one of these as you approach it as a project?
They don't get easier. You would think that they would, but each project is kind of its own animal. This was taken from about 10 shows. It was put together from about 10 shows. And the biggest challenge of this was not only to sync up those shows, because, basically what I do is I decide, okay, well, this song sounds the best from this night, and I'm going to take all the versions of this song and sync it to this one. So you're speeding up some stuff, you're slowing down some stuff. So that part, I could do that in my sleep. I've done that on every single one of my releases. But where it gets challenging is you have these 10 different shows. And I don't know if you guys noticed this, but the band the stage evolved over time on that tour. The band looked different as the tour progressed on. Costumes got changed a little bit here and there. And as we're using different videos, the videos, they just looked different. So the biggest challenge was, well, how am I going to make this all look like it was one show? And even though the editing of trimming everything together came by very quickly, the color correction and the timing and all that stuff took the most time, because I wanted a viewer to be able to sit down, suspend disbelief that this is multiple shows, and just watch it and say, oh, this is what I remember seeing in 1996 or 1997. And this brings me back to that. This is the show that I saw. So there are multiple shows, and the reason why there are multiple shows is some have wide shots, some have close shots, some this looks better, or they caught this action better, or this lighting is better. So it was about taking all those shows and making them look as close together as I possibly could. So that was the biggest challenge. And each project as I go on has its own challenges. Obviously, The Greatest Show on Earth was the hardest because nothing like that had ever been done before. But I remember as I was working on One Last Time, the biggest challenge of that was, I hope this makes sense. I hope people understand the story that I'm trying to tell in between these songs. And then the most challenging part of this was, well, I hope it all looks the same, because how silly would it be if you're watching a show and then all of a sudden you're seeing, Paul singing under a purple light, and then it changes angles, and then, he's dancing in the crowd somewhere. Like you wanted to make sure you had all those little actions match up as best as you could and then look the same.
Continuity.
So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about... I'm going to cut you off there because I do want to kind of crank through this, so that we cover the majority of the show, so that people get a good idea for several aspects of it. But Ken, the intro, what's your take on that? Because the first time I saw it, I was like, gah. I was like, that is an intro. Nailed it.
Yeah, I thought the intro was great. Good intro, it's the kind of the build up to the actual show. Like something's happening here, and with the pulling up of the limousine. Was it limousines or?
Yeah.
As or the trucks or whatever, but pulling up and all the other things about it, and the crowd waiting, and it kind of it's a nice build up to what was going on, and so it kind of makes you excited to see the concert.
Yeah, I always like the effect of them walking to the stage, and they still use that effect to today. I think there's something, just get your energy level up and get you going to see them walking to the stage. It's something they've used for, I don't know, going back to at least 2004, they've used that. I don't remember if they, I guess 2004 is the first time they really started using that, seeing them walk to the stage. And, we've all been in the audience, you see the crowd's reaction when they see Kiss for the first time that night walking to the stage. And it's kind of just took on a life of its own that we can't go to a Kiss concert now without see them walking to the stage. So I enjoyed that part of it, and it, seeing them in those seeing them in full, figure in those reunion costumes. Because they really were larger than life at that point in time. And the four members of the band meant a lot. To see the four of them walking to the stage to kick things off. This is what I'm getting, is the original Kiss, the reunion show. You can see all four of those, familiar characters right off the bat. Those, just grabbed you right away. And of course the 2-pack intro as well, which shocked the people.
Oh yeah.
And the great I love the Great Expectations. In the background, the kind of the outro that Ezra put together on Destroyer just really sets the tone nicely. Hey, we're going to do a giveaway during this episode. So what I have on offer today is a pre-production original set list from one of the crew members from June 1996.
Can I win that, or am I disqualified?
Participants in the episode and filmmakers are disqualified.
Dang
so I'll be asking Andrew during this episode which song on this release he is most proud of as a construction, and that'll be the answer that you email to me at KissFAQ@outlook.com. So guys, remind me to ask the freaking question and repeat those details during the show, because I just got an email from a legendary Australian rocker agreeing to an interview, so I'm like really in a happy place. Let's get back to some questions. Alive Worldwide was supposed to reimagine 1977-78, so the Alive 2 tour in essence. I've always wondered, and what's your take on this, Andrew? Do you think Gene and Paul had a thumb wrestle fight to decide who got to sing the first song of the reunion, with it being such an important moment in history? It should have been Paul if they were recreating 77-78 with I Stole Your Love, not Deuce, which wasn't even in the set by that time. So what's your take on that as the first song?
Well, that's something that I've struggled. That's something that I've struggled with for 25 years. That you're right, it should have been a Paul song. However, if you look at the show objectively as a concert, as a theatrical production that moved on, it just made all the sense in the world to start with Deuce, because remember, they start all those amp walls are down flat. So when the curtain drops, you just see this stripped down Kiss show, which is kind of what you would have seen in 1975. So I think what they were doing is they go, hey, here we are, no tricks, just these four guys just on stage kicking ass. And they also wanted to open the show with a song that had great choreography. And you can't get any better choreography than that little Deuce dance at the end. So I do think that they didn't need the thumb wrestle. I think that they kind of looked at this objectively and goes, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we did this? And then after the first song, Ace does the intro to King, and then those amplifiers, they rise up. Like that was an incredible thing to see back then. When you saw all these pictures in magazines, you didn't know that. And the little news clips that you saw, you didn't know that those amp cabinets were raising up. I just remember that one of the first bootlegs I saw was a Japanese show, and I go, oh, they stripped down the set for Japan. I couldn't believe it, because I was very young when I saw the band at the Meadowlands in '96. I didn't remember that part, but I remember years later watching the bootleg and then seeing those cabinets come up, and I was like, oh, I guess that did happen.
I didn't remember it either.
Yeah, so looking at it,
I saw a bootleg.
Yeah, so looking at it objectively, going, well, hey, they wanted to not only take you back to '77, but they wanted to take you back even farther when it was just the band and a couple of amps on stage. So I think the first image is that, and that's what you see, and then they kick into King of the Nighttime World. Then the amps, rise up, and there's big giant cabinets of amps. I think that they sat down and thought this would be a cool way to kind of 1-2 punch them. My opinion.
Ken, Lonnie,
somebody say something.
No, I mean, I'm just going to say that. I did, enjoy it very much. And the thing is, I really enjoyed seeing Black Diamond played, properly, in my opinion, especially with the start that, the Paul's little riffing that happens before the real entry into the song, which is the way it always should be. But he hasn't done that kind of entry since I don't know, early 2000s maybe, I don't know. He stopped doing that. He does this little like chug thing, which I think is just like, no, don't do that. Just do it the way you always used to do it, which is kind of, it integrates the song's riff itself a bit. So I just love it. I mean, it's pretty much my favorite song by Kiss. So when I watched it, I'm like, oh yeah, he was doing it. They were doing it the right way back then, and I really enjoyed that song. It was just They did. I mean, a great version. That was, I don't know what night that was, but that was
Several.
a great. Okay. And I see that tells you right there. I felt like it's, one night, but you put it together and it felt like one, one each song, even that they were broken up, felt like one from one night, and the whole thing, felt pretty good. Like you're just watching one show and enjoying it.
I'm a goldfish when it comes to continuity, so I don't really notice that, that feels like it's from a different show. So it's a very seamless, experience for me. I mean, some of the stuff that stood out was, the synchronized rocking in King of the Nighttime World. That was really cool. I loved the Gene shots in that one. Kind of the expressions on his face where he was really kind of enjoying being back in his war pains. Let Me Go Rock and Roll. I said it before to you when, I saw some early edits. What the hell is that doing third in the set?
Well, if you remember,
It was early.
it initially it was very late in the set, but towards, not during the Lost Cities leg, but later on in the tour, it became third in the set. And this was the last song that I put in. The reason why I chose this song is I needed a third song. Firehouse wasn't really a third song. All the current footage of Do You Love Me I had, it wasn't good. I didn't have enough footage to make Do You Love Me feel like, oh, this is cool. I was missing it from a lot of shows that I used. So I kind of looked at the reunion tour set and I go, well, they did do Let Me Go Rock and Roll third towards later on in the tour. And they even did it third opening night in Dodger Stadium in 1998. So it was the third song, and it was that way on the Destroyer tour. It was that way on the Rock and Roll Over tour. So I'm like, all right, it wasn't my first choice to do, but I needed a third song, and it couldn't have been Firehouse.
Let Me Go Rock and Roll was third in St. Louis in '97 when I saw him.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and third in New Jersey when I saw him in December '96.
But when I saw him in '96, so when I saw him third show in '96, it was really late in the set, like you had mentioned. They moved some stuff around. I forgot about them.
Yeah. So that's why it wasn't my first choice. My first choice was Do You Love Me? But if you remember the Madison Square Garden third night bonus disc in Kissology Volume 3, they took out King of the Nighttime World and King of the Nighttime World and Do You Love Me? So I didn't have another version of Do You Love Me to go from. I just had Tiger Stadium. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, I guess I can fill in some of the stuff from Toledo '97, but I didn't have enough stuff to make it look like it was a produced song. So I cut it.
Interesting.
The length is also 80 minutes, isn't it? Which is very close to what a Kiss performance would have been in 1978. Was that a deliberate?
Well, it's like Kiss loves even numbers. 10 songs, 15 songs, 20 songs. So I knew that I wasn't going to be able to stretch it to 20 songs because right out the gate, there were songs missing that I wanted to do. Do You Love Me? New York Groove. These were things that were missing. So I knew I couldn't stretch it to 20 songs and have it be cohesive and have myself just have enough footage to be able to choose from. So I knew right off the bat I was going to cut it to 15 songs. Couple reasons why I was going to do that. Number one, I wanted it to be a single VHS. So I know single VHSs could go up to 120 minutes sometimes, but let's make it a single VHS. Let's also make it a single CD. So I thought 15 songs was the perfect length, and I didn't want to overdo it. I didn't want to just start putting stuff in there because I just make this longer. I wanted to take the best stuff and put the best stuff in there. Yeah, I cut Watching You. I just didn't think that there was a strong performance of Watching You throughout that tour. It was a fine song to play, and it was great to have a song so early back in the set in the 90s, but I didn't think the versions I had were strong. So I knew there was some, like I said, there was some fat I wanted to trim off. But truth to be told, New York Groove, I wish that would have been in Tiger Stadium. I wish it would have been at Madison Square Garden, the bonus disc from Kissology Volume 3. I wish they would have put New York Groove in there because I would have used it. I also would have liked to have used Come On and Love Me, but I didn't have that from any show aside from Toledo. So
25 songs on this set. Ooh.
It's a
but
nice
if you-
even number too.
But if you remember, if you guys remember, they whittled that down to 20 songs almost immediately.
Mhm.
You know, they did play a lot longer at Tiger Stadium than they did ultimately down the line. I mean, 2000 Man was one of the first songs to go, and that seldomly came back throughout the tour. But after Tiger Stadium, it was pretty much down to 20 songs.
Yeah, like Christine 16 they did at Tiger Stadium was gone like immediately too.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was more about creating a live experience. It was more about making it feel... It's about giving you just enough. I feel like if I just threw 5 more songs on there, people would be like, all right, maybe I got to go start cooking dinner or whatever. I wanted to keep your excitement level.
I think the
up throughout
attention
the entire
span,
song.
makes it work out. Another thing that jumps out at me that you fixed from an earlier version is, thank God, you fixed the audience shots in Strutter. Because when Paul was doing his rap about the girls and women, and you cut to the audience and there were 2 fat guys, I'm like, you should have left that in somehow. But, thanks for fixing that. Continuity. How much of how does someone with OCD deal with continuity and making a fan film without going bonkers?
Well, you just go bonkers. That's what you do. No, I mean, there really is no easy answer for that. Basically, what this was, I had to just pick the best stuff, and sometimes I had to let continuity go by the wayside. There are some shots where Paul's costume switches, he got one sleeve up and one sleeve down, but those are little things that you just have to ignore. I mean, there are continuity errors on the Kiss Symphony Alive 4 DVD, for God's sake. So things like that are just going to happen. What I wanted to do throughout this is I started with Tiger Stadium, because sonically it sounded the best. It certainly wasn't the band's best performance, but sonically it sounded the best. It's, Gene sounded way better at Tiger Stadium than he did in New York City. His voice was gone by that point, a month into the tour. So it was about just, I got to show the best stuff. And sometimes you make continuity decisions that you're going to say, well, hey, I didn't want to do giant continuity errors. I didn't want Paul to be in his jacket and then the next shot him to be without his shirt on completely. So I tried to keep it as close as I possibly could. Yeah, there's one show where his makeup is dripping off and this and that. So, but you got to ignore those little things because, they probably would have been there on this official release if it ever had come out. So, but to answer your question, I just wanted to make it look cool. I wanted you to be like, oh, hey, that was cool. That was a fun song to watch. That's really all I wanted to do.
So that's a great question for both Ken and Lonnie. Lonnie, let's start with you. Were there any songs that really jumped out at you when you're watching it? You're like, wow, that was a visually very pleasing thing, or anything that took you back?
King of the Nighttime World was definitely the standout for me and really took me back. One, because I haven't played King of the Nighttime. I don't think I've seen him do King of the Nighttime World since I saw him in '97. And it's one of my favorite songs. And I always loved the way they opened those shows on the reunion tour with Deuce straight into King of the Nighttime World. Just because Deuce is such a great opener to begin with. And then kind of featuring Ace, with Ace, shaking that guitar and raising those cabinets behind him, just showing, hey, here's, by the way, here's Ace freaking Frehley right here, right off the gate, just to remind you. But I just love the way that those songs just seamlessly went together. Didn't seem forced at all, even with the King of the Nighttime World intro with the guitar, and then just blast right into it. And like you said, you could really see on Gene's face how much he was enjoying being the demon again during King of the Nighttime World in this production by Andrew. And this just immediately just took me back to 96, 97. Not that I'm not proud to be a Kiss fan today, but God, I was proud to be a Kiss fan in 96 and 97. And, brought me back to sewing Kiss patches on my backpack and being a junior and senior in high school, and didn't give a shit when anybody said to me about the band, because I knew something, to quote Gene, like, I knew something that they didn't know. Like, I knew that this was the greatest concert and the greatest band in the world, and you guys have no freaking idea what you're missing. And that's what
so
the start
fucking
of this.
What? The magic is back.
Exactly right. and these two shows just brought me right back to to those two songs. I'm sorry, those two songs right off the jump just brought me right back to that kind of feeling. And like now I still love Kiss as much as I ever did probably, but I kind of roll my eyes a little bit, and I say, oh, $15,000 for this platinum package to Dubai, and $15,000 for Gene's sword from the Dubai show. I was like, all right, whatever. But like seeing the beginning of this show, that's when I was so proud to be a Kiss fan, and it just meant so much to me at that age. So it sucked me into the rest of it.
Nice. Ken, what about you? Is there a song or songs that really jumped out at you when you're watching it that made you have the same sort of Lonnie's been very eloquent in expressing what that meant to him. Was there anything that gave you a similar feeling?
Well, yeah, definitely. I agree with him on definitely on King of Nighttime World. And then it's a rare one that they don't play much, and with their choreography, everything was really good. And I already mentioned Black Diamond. Another thing that I liked actually, which was Beth. No, I'm not. No, not really. It was shocked me. I thought was really good because we don't get to see Asa do that anymore these days with the band, and I really enjoyed that, and Peter Criss's drumming. I was kind of trying to think how he drummed. I don't think he drummed it this exactly the same way he did on the album, because he was a little bit more syncopated on the album than I think in concert, at least to my ears. But I thought it was really good. And of course, Let Me Go Rock and Roll is always a great one. Energy.
See, he likes it third.
It's always a great one.
I don't have a problem with where it was. It's just that
it reminds me of that reminds me. Let Me Go Rock and Roll reminds me of when I first saw Kiss in '79. They did that, and I just remember like, man, this is great, and they're doing the moves and stuff, and I thought, man, this is just awesome. So it makes me think back to that kind of stuff. So. But there's a lot of things to pick from, though.
Yeah, it's chock full of moments. Some of the ones I've noted, I think shock me, because there's just that little bit at the end when they finish the main part of Shock Me
with Gene,
and Gene stomps his foot. Yeah,
yes.
that moment just jumped out at me, and
awesome.
then the look on Ace's face. There are these close-up shots of him after he switches to the Black Beauty guitar. And I've not noticed those in the other videos before. And it was just something on his face, a quirkiness of, all the drama there as well. But there he was back in his makeup doing his song on stage with the band again, that it kind of rammed it all home. Another moment is how you handle the flame sequence. Bingo. Well done. Loved it. I've never been a big fan of Firehouse, but when we get to the end of that song and boom comes the fire, I'm like, yeah, that looks right. That was
one of those things that was difficult for me, because those flame effects that were on the screen during the last chorus, that was a cheesy 1996 effect that was on the screen. So every show I had that effect already baked into it. So, man, I would have loved if I could have not used that. But at the same time, that's what you saw in 96. So, I thought everybody was going to hate Firehouse, because I'm like, man, those flames at the end, it looks so cheesy.
Well, I kept nagging you about the overlays. Like, can't you do anything about that? There's the part of the video. They're in every video. There's nothing, deal with it. But you know
Literally.
what? Literally now, it does not bother me. You've said it to me, the justification enough times that it finally made it through the cranium, and I just accept it, because when you do get to Gene breathing fire, it's like, forget it. It's
thank God the flame effect wasn't burned in when he was breathing the fire, because then I would have been like, man, I gotta cut the song because this is such dog shit. But no, I really wanted to not have the flame effect burned in there, but hey, every show I had, there it was.
So you've talked about a challenge. What is your favorite song when you've watched this through? What is the one that you actually sit back and you do your Gene Simmons? You're like, yeah,
I hate them all. No, honestly, it's probably songs that I had to fix, and I fixed a lot of songs in there as far as band mistakes. Shout It Out Loud, 100,000 Years, the end of Let Me Go Rock and Roll, Deuce, Black Diamond. So I guess probably my favorite song to just sit back and watch, it's probably Deuce, because I remember the main part of that song comes from Tiger Stadium, and the band nearly fell apart during that first song when that first breakdown happened. So I first started the first cut I had of this. I didn't fix any of the mistakes. I just left all the warts there, and I was like, "This is what it is." And then I went back and I go, "Man, that doesn't sound good." And so what I was able to do is, because some of those early shows, they sound similar. They don't sound the same. They sound similar. I was like, well, let me see if I could fix them. So I fixed that part in Deuce and nearly half a dozen other parts where hopefully, I mean, I know you're watching this now and you know now, but hopefully when you sit down and watch this show on December 11th on YouTube, you don't notice the things that I fixed. At least I hope so.
What about musically? Because did you do anything with Peter's drums? Because they sound a little bit different to how I recall all the recordings sounding like.
Well, like I mentioned before, the Tiger Stadium show sonically sounded better, and I thought that as the tour petered on, no pun intended, as the tour petered on, the band started to sound a certain way. But the great Andy Samford, he remixed this audio for me. So if you listen to the audio straight from Kissology, it's kind of like, it is what it is. But he fixed it and he made it sound as close to a live album as possible. So it has to do with two reasons. It has to do with them sounding sonically different in Detroit, and the great work of Andy Samford. He did the audio one last time. He did the audio here too. So he did a great job. I think it sounds awesome.
Yeah, and he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Which really helps when someone tweaks stuff, because there are tweakers who shouldn't tweak. Well, they've obviously been tweaking too much before they tweak. Another moment that I really enjoy is Paul's final twirl at the end of 100,000 Years. To see just little ballerina moments. I might be tired when I was watching this. I'm certainly tired now. But that really reminds me of the magic that the band had. And it is an element that I feel is gone to a certain extent. As much as I enjoy the show that the current four members of the band put on. But that magic was indelible throughout this performance. When you have the close-up shots of Peter smiling, you have Gene smiling, and we know it wasn't, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It wasn't a fairy tale. There were challenges, but you could see that there were clearly moments during a show where these guys actually enjoyed being back in Kiss, not necessarily with one another, on stage. So I want to talk about difficulties. What was the most difficult song that you had to work on? And maybe one that nearly, you've mentioned Firehouse and the Overlay, but that maybe you were teetering on the brink of cutting out of the show, but you did manage to get to work.
Shout It Out Loud. Every version of that song from the Kissologies had an issue with it. Shout Out Loud from Tiger Stadium. Peter didn't wait for the band. He just started playing the drum beat without the count off. So the band, when they all came into the song together, was kind of like a loose machine. And then unfortunately, the version from Madison Square Garden, Night 3, the band started without Peter. So I had two different mess-ups. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, it sounded like absolute dog shit. So what I did is I took the version where Peter wasn't playing the intro, and I was like, well, the band is playing, so I just have to add the drum beat in there. So I went later on in the song where the drums break down. It's just da 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 do da da do da do da do da. Took that little drum piece from later on in the song, fiddled with it a little bit, overlaid it, made it longer, dragged it to the beginning of the song, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and it worked. And I was like, oh, thank God that worked, because that's the reunion tour song, because it was the single, it was the video, and it was on Greatest Kiss. So that was the song I had to work on the longest, just because I wanted to make it I wanted to make it work, and I hit a couple explosions in there to kind of try to hide a little bit of my edit marks. So hopefully when you watch it, you don't notice that I spent a lot of time on that beginning of Shout Out Loud, a lot of time, almost an embarrassing amount of time. And it almost got cut. I was like, I'm just going to throw the video in here and fuck this. But luckily I was able to make it work. It took probably an entire 6 hours to get that to work.
So you just told everyone where to focus in to find critical
Right.
things.
Time to rewatch it.
If there's boom, boom, eagle eyes out, get the knives and forks. Let's go back to Lonnie for some points.
There's so many elements of there, like even like and so much how I remember it, like the 4 solo faces, like morphing together, one after another, and it just there's so many elements that just took me back to 96, 97. That was one of them. And as I was watching it, I was really hoping that you included that, and to my delight, it was there. So I was like,
it had to be there.
Exactly. It had to be there. So because it wouldn't have been complete without it. Because the home video, if they were to release it in 98, would have had that. They would have had that on there. And I think, the Firehouse thing too, you're talking about how, well, I didn't really like that flame overlay and that, but it would have been there though. I think even on the home video release, I think they would have put that on there as well. I think it's exactly the version that we would have got.
There's also like a weird like paint like effect during Ace's solo when the guitar starts smoking.
Yeah. And that
was there. That was there too. That was another burned in 1996 effect. I didn't like it, but that version of the solo was sonically the best one, so I had to use it.
And I thought that as I was watching it, that I bet that well, this is just the footage that you have. This is what you have to work with. But at the same time, I also think that that's how they would have presented it on a home video in 98. That it would have had those cheesy late 90s effects as well. So I think that makes it that much more pure, and the fact that it's in 4:3, because that's how it would have been on a home video release as well. It's not stretched to my widescreen TV. Hashtag bless our widescreen TV. I know, but it's on a 4:3. It's in 4:3 format, the way it would have looked if I went out and bought a VHS. So the thing I really liked is how true to form it was. That it looks like it would have been released in 98, having those solo faces more, having those flame overlays, as as cheesy as they may look, having that Ace overlay during his solo. Everything, it's exactly true to form, and how I would have expected, and how the 18-year-old, 19-year-old me would have wanted it in 98. Quick side story. In 98, I made my own, I guess, a live 96, and I was a freshman in college, and we had to do like it was English composition, and for some reason, but she let me do a presentation on Kiss. I really don't know how I talked her into it, but she let me do a presentation on Kiss, and it was a persuasive speech or something about the American experience, and I talked about the reunion show, and then I morphed like a St. Louis bootleg and that Atlanta show into like highlights of the show for like a 15-minute like little thing showing Ace's smoking guitar, and showing Gene breathing fire, showing Gene drooling blood, showing Peter doing Beth, showing the end of Black Diamond. I did my own little, it's 20 years ago of that. So like sitting there watching you create that, and it's like, well, this is how an adult does it, first of all, and or how a professional does it, not 18-year-old me. But it's like, but your video is what I wanted to create, to show in my presentation 20 years ago. So it was exactly what I wanted. So kudos, Andrew. It was amazing.
Oh, thank you. And I'm not a professional. I'm just I'm a jagoff, just like anybody else. What amazes me most about all of these little fan films, and this will be if you count the little Tokyo thing I did last December, where I just synced Alive, the Lost Alive 2 to Tokyo 77. This is the 5th Kiss project that I've done, and it has shocked me that nobody else has done anything like this. Why?
Nobody's copycatted you in the last however long too.
Yeah, no one did it before me, and there were talented people in the Kiss community.
Oh, sure.
Dave Stryker from Kiss Vision, a super talented guy, one of the guys I used to look up to. But nobody has done this. All they've done is they go, let me just take these 4 shitty high 8 tapes and do a multi-camera from, Mumbai, 1998 or whatever it was. No one has sat and done those things that were filling in gaps in Kiss's history. Now, I know I really wasn't filling in a gap when it came to One Last Time, but that was just something that I wanted to tell. But no one has went back and go, well, what would a theatrical film would have looked like? What would a TV special? So no one, and it shocks me because, listen, I'm not the brightest guy. I'm just not. But someone had to have these ideas before. And why didn't they do it before? Why me? I don't have delusions of grandeur thinking that I'm the best and I did this and I'm so great. I don't. I was like, why didn't someone do this before? I want to watch someone's interpretation of these things as a fan because I would love it.
I hope it inspires people. And one thing we have seen in the last week is Michael Edwards put together the Won't Get Fooled Again video clip, which was kind of a compilation of different angles from shows, married with the soundboard from Bruce's collection. So, there are the occasional things like that, but not of the scope or scale that you have been doing. And hopefully you'll inspire other people to pick up that gauntlet, whether it's doing, a show that means something to them, the way that you've interpreted it, or weaving a story into a show to tell a bigger story for want of losing.
Yeah, I want to watch it. I want to watch someone else's interpretation of this band.
If it's quality.
Right.
And listen, that's subjective. That really is subjective. I'm not the only guy that's gonna make quality Kiss videos. So quality is subjective. So I just want to see what someone puts together with their heart, and something that's cool and enjoyable. So I hope somebody does that because I'll tell you something. I don't sit around and watch my own films. I really don't. I have them all accessible to show people. And it's just when someone's like, well, hey, you're an editor. What have you done? And I'm like, well, this is what I've done. So I'm able to do it that way. But at the same time, I want to watch someone else's interpretation of it. I hope the Kisstory official documentary is half as good as what people said about One Last Time. So, hope someone someone make something cool. And don't just take a bunch of stuff and make a Kiss music video. Just make it big, make it flashy. Someone do something. If the last Kiss show ever happens, I have another idea for another film to do around the actual last show. So that I'm still going to do if it ever happens. But someone do something cool. I want to see something cool.
Yeah, and you want someone else to pull their hair out.
I want someone else to do it because, it's...
So someone else can suffer for your entertainment for a change.
Yeah, exactly. Because when I look back, I've been at these since almost nonstop since 2017. That's kind of when I had the idea for The Greatest Show on Earth. And I started doing that, and then The Greatest Show on Earth morphed into Kiss at Midnight, and then I went back and fixed things about The Greatest Show on Earth I didn't like, and then it was the Japan show, then it was One Last Time, and now it's this. So, yes, I need a break. I need a break so bad. I just don't want to look at the computer for a while. But at the same time, if an idea comes to me, just like this one does, I have this thing inside me that makes me do it. That if the idea just stays inside me, it drives me nuts. I have to do it if I get this idea and if I get inspired about something. But it's just I want someone else to do it. I want to see someone else's vision.
Yeah, Ken, do you have a last question for Andrew before we wrap?
No, it's a question, but I just say this concert video is a great compilation, but it's a great addition to something I have, and probably a lot of people have it. Is I have a 2 DVD set of the press conferences. I don't know if you have that one, but it has all the '96 stuff, the TV stuff, where they were on TV, the announcement press conference at the aircraft carrier and so on. Just tons of media, backstage stuff, just interviews and all this stuff. And this is a great thing. So now I can say, okay, I got that, and then I can go, okay, now let's watch the concert. It just kind of can be for me one full package. Now, the other thing, as we talked about earlier about the raps and stuff, I was thinking about it more. There should have been less raps in a lot of those concerts back in the day, because you know what? The concerts flow a lot better. And that's why I think End of the Road, the current, touring or whatever, flows a lot better, because it's like bam, bam, bam. You're just, knocking you out. It's one song after another. And then there's a little bit of Paul rap. And then we know some of the reasons for that. But I think reducing that just helps the flow of the concert. It's much better, more enjoyable.
Here's what I think. Here's my homework assignment for all you Kiss Army cadets out there. Homework assignment is throw in The Second Coming and watch until they sell out Tiger Stadium. And after they sell out Tiger Stadium, press pause, then go to YouTube as long as after December 11th, and then watch Alive 96. And I think you'll get the most complete picture of the tour that you can get. Yes, funny things happen on the road. Yes, they did things in the Action League Now and Tupelo, Mississippi, and all that stuff. But I think if you watch the making of the tour, and then you watch a live concert, I think you'll remember what a cool time in history this was.
And on that is a really good way to wrap up. So, production rehearsal set list from June the 20th, 1996. It's got folds increased because it has been used by staff. Andrew's favorite video song performance from his movie, fan film. Email it to kissfaq@outlook.com by Wednesday, the 9th of December, noon, and random drawing as always, and it could be yours. So that's it. That is, one last time, tell us where and when people can watch your fan film.
As any of the fan films, if you want, make sure you follow me on YouTube. It's youtube.com/greatestshowonearth fan films. Come back December 11th to see Alive 96. And just like I did with One Last Time, I'm going to be uploading Alive 96 on Monday, December the 7th. And then you'll get to bookmark the actual link that you'll be able to watch starting on Friday. So just pretend it's like an old concert and you're waiting in line. You can bookmark that page and wait in line, and when it premieres, YouTube will send you a notification that it's live for you to watch. There'll be live chat when it's premiering for the first time. So come in and join the fun, because it's going to be fun. And I really thank you guys for having me on to talk about this. And hats off to you, Ken, for being the brainchild behind this and getting the juices flowing.
Lonnie, you got to step up your game, man.
I know.
Come on. All right.
It's like getting a line ticket back in the day in '96. You'd go and get a line ticket, come back a few more times during the week and get another line ticket, so you make sure you get it. That's how you used to do it.
That's awesome. So that's our show. Andrew, you're part of this show, so it's nice to have you on to talk about one of the things that you work outside of podcasting and being a member of the crew. So thank you very much for joining us. I hope everyone enjoys it. Do check it out. I think it's well worth your time. And obviously from Andrew, from Ken, Lonnie, myself, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Wow.
Thank you for spending time listening to the KissFAQ podcast today. All sales are final. There are no refunds. If you'd like, look us up on Facebook or come over to the KissFAQ message board and discuss the topic we've broadcast today. Don't forget to rate us on iTunes, Spreaker, or wherever you've listened to the show. We hope you'll join us again.